This is The Soul Garden, presented by me, Georgina Langdale, for the Centre for Nature Connection, and it's where we get to explore nature, compassion and soul through the inner and outer workings of living in a connected world. And I'm really glad to have you here with me today. I've got a very, very special guest, Dr. Tess Moeke-Maxwell. Tess has been involved for many years now in the area of palliative and end-of-life care for Māori. And we're going to explore the work that she's been doing with others in a major study called Paihēranga. I hope you enjoy this discussion. Kia ora, Tess. How are you?
Kia
ora. I'm going to do a brief introduction for you, for everyone who's watching and listening, because Tess is pretty amazing. She's a research fellow at the School of Nursing in Auckland, New Zealand, and a founding member of the Tiarai Palliative Care and End-of-Life Research Group. And you've been very active providing advice to the development of the Māori palliative care framework for Hospice New Zealand. Understand, and of course, one of the main reasons that we're here today is to talk about the Paihēranga study, of which you were the lead researcher of, and got this amazing study underway. Tess, we're both involved in working with people at the end of life and in palliative care. And I know from our discussions, we both come at it with an understanding, a deep understanding of the medical perspective, but we're also seeing this huge, in many cases, void around non-medical care and we're both looking at how this can be reintegrated into the way we look after people at the end of life. Can you talk about this from a Māori perspective and what led you to get this study commissioned and your journey through this experience, please?
Oh, kia ora, Georgina. I usually like to start with a little waiata. So
I'd love that. Thank you.
And then I'll introduce myself.
Okay.
Ko te aroha, ko te runga rawa, no runga ki raro, waenga e. O tēnā koe, and te katoa, ko Ngaitai rawa ko Ngāti Porou oku iwi. I hail from Ngaitai and Ngāti Porou, Ngaitai in South Auckland, New Zealand, and also on the East Coast. And I'm also, I think, 5th generation Irish, so this is my fair complexion. And thank you for the introduction, and thank you for just acknowledging the work that I've been involved with. And of course, being Māori and being an academic, I work with a team of people. So I have beautiful kaumātua that I work with. One of our senior kaumātua has recently passed away, Rawiri Wharemate. To go back in time, there was never a time in my life when I didn't have an understanding of the cycle of life. I was born to a Māori mother. My mum's still alive, she's 88. And I was born to a mother who had lost a baby at 2 months of age. And so while I was growing up, my mum would often reflect back on this story that she carried about her baby. Her baby had a hole in the heart. Her name was Jeanette. And she was 2 before me. So mum had, I think in the end, 8 children, and she was 2 before me. And my mum actually was one of 17 children, so I heard a lot about life and big family life and communal life and all of that. Not all of it was sunshine and roses. A lot of it was very tough, particularly whānau growing up in the 30s and 40s in New Zealand. So I grew up with this idea that we have a body, we have a spirit, we're born, the body is born with the spirit intact. And when the body ceases to be, it's because the spirit has withdrawn and left the body. And this was just a very natural way of growing up.
Mm.
Alongside that, the sense of loss and grief was also a very natural narrative that I grew up with, because I learned very young that the sense of love and longing, it actually never goes away. It gets bumped and bruised along life's journey as other things happen. So as other people pass over or leave their bodies, the memories of those previously that have passed are refreshed. And so we mourn again. And we also, in that mourning, celebrate them again to us.
Yes.
Also connect to their wairua. Not just thinking about people in terms of having left their bodies and gone to another realm. We also speak about them as though they're right here with us and we can communicate with them. And I'm sure I'm telling you and everyone listening what they already know, but this is just something what I grew up with. And so when I studied at university, my focus mainly was, I did psychology and I did women's and gender studies, but my focus mainly was on Māori identity, because we live in such a changing world. We have multiple ethnicities. We have often plural ethnic identities. And so, you know, if perhaps you have 2 or 3 different cultural backgrounds, you might in one week be attending something at a marae, which is our ancestral meeting place, our homes, and then you might be going over to attend some ceremony from perhaps the Jewish side of your family.
Yeah.
So these are the complexities I think that many of us today are living with. Unlike my mother, when she grew up sort of 80 years ago or 90 years ago, you were Māori or you were Pākehā, and maybe you were Chinese, because we didn't really have a lot of mixed ethnic groups here then.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we are made up of so many different iwi tribal groups, and we have often, you know, settler New Zealander backgrounds and other ethnic groups. So all of these kind of converge to make a very important kind of mixture of identities or subjectivities. So I was very interested in that. And at the time I was working on that theory, that was for my PhD at University of Waikato, I was also working as a therapist for sexual abuse and trauma recovery. And of course, when you're working in that space, you're working a lot with loss and grief. And people are telling you a lot about the miscarriages, the abortions, you know, often things that are connected to death.
Yeah.
And so I became very interested in that subject. And because of that, I was very attracted to working more and more with people who suffered a sense of loss and who needed in some way, I guess, to restore themselves.
Yes.
A sense of what had happened, and to bring that into their orbit in a way where they could live peacefully with it. And so when an opportunity came up for me to work on a tangihana program, and tangihana means the traditional Māori funeral customs we have in New Zealand, and that program was being led out by Professors Linda Nikora and Ngāhuia Te Awatuku. So they won a big Marsden grant, and they asked me would I jump on board as their postdoc. And basically what that meant was I was going to be interviewing people who had a life-limiting illness, Māori adults, and also the whānau that cared for them. And I was really just looking at the terrain, what things were important to them, how were they navigating that end-of-life system, what were the things that were helping them, where were the gaps, and this sort of thing. So it was really my first entry point into postgraduate study around a Māori experience of end of life and dying in a formal way. And that was the Kia Ngāwari study. And from there, I was invited by Professor Merrin Gott from the School of Nursing at the University of Auckland to join her and some other researchers. Everyone had a speciality of looking at the end of life through the lens of an older person, be it an older New Zealander, older Korean person, or an older Māori person. And I was specifically invited to projects around older Māori, and we call older men and women kaumātua. And, Professor Merrin wanted to formalise that group of researchers. She knew that there was a unique group of skills, people coming from the clinical side, the geography side, the psychology side. There were a whole lot of us, but all interested in improving ageing and end of life outcomes for older people and the whānau that care for them. And my colleague and I at the time, Stella from Tūhoe, we decided we would be very keen to join and set up this group. We needed to have kaumātua to support us. So we needed older people that in their own realms designated as tohunga, or people with expertise by their own communities. We needed them to come alongside us and guide us. And we invited Rawiri Wharemate, as I said. He only passed away a month or two ago now, but he came and he brought with him his sister Whio Wharemate Hansen, and other kaumātua came. And in fact, many kaumātua wanted to join his group to support the work we were doing. And, you know, one could ask, well, why was that? The reason is that those older kaumātua who were growing up at a time when many of them had as their first language Māori, te reo Māori, many of them lived on the land, eating from their gardens, their fruit trees, eating the fresh kai from the rivers, from the oceans, from the bush, the ngahere. They were living very healthy, natural lifestyles. But of course, with the, I guess, colonial push towards capitalisation, high capitalism, many of them moved off the farms into the cities in the 50s and 60s, which really changed the composition of our whānau. And of course, the pill came out in the 60s, so there were smaller families and all of that.
Yeah.
Getting to here is the sense of, for many contemporary Māori whānau, a sense of being dislocated from their traditional customs, their ways of doing things. And the kaumātua stepped forward to help us because they were very concerned that contemporary whānau, many contemporary whānau, hadn't been able to retain their traditional end-of-life care customs. Because you know and I know that we have a projected anticipated increase in older Māori deaths of 48% coming up.
Yeah.
5 years, and I'm in that group. And so, you know, we've got to get things right. We've got to prepare our whānau, and we've got to prepare our health professionals and our systems, because that's a lot of people that are going to need support, love and care to help them pass through the arai. And just to reflect on the name, Te Arai Palliative Care Life Research Group, the arai means the veil. And in the marae setting, where we have the whare nui, or the big meeting house where we gather, the tūpāpaku, or the body after it, before it's buried or cremated, it lays in the big whare nui against the back wall, and that back wall is called the arai. And this is the veil. And I've been told that on the other side of the arai are two sentries, so two spiritual beings that wait to accompany the wairua, or the spirit of that person, home to the heavenly realm. So I think that's quite a nice narrative.
Beautiful, yes.
Called the Te Arai Group. So that's kind of what got me into this is first of all, there was never a time I wasn't aware of death or loss and grief. Secondly, I'm very interested in contemporary Māori identity, where that positions us in terms of caring for those we love at the end of life, particularly older people. And then I guess I just had that beautiful opportunity where I was invited into Professor Merrin Gott's program, the program, supported by our kaumātua. And I'm the one, I guess, that is privileged to be able to work directly with those kaumātua, leading out kaupapa Māori research projects on end of life.
In my conversations with people working in palliative care and the end of life, one of the things that has become very apparent is there's such a massive gap for everybody, from the point of the GP and their doctors and specialists saying, okay, there's nothing more we can do, to going into, to actually then becoming fully under auspices of hospice care. And one of the things that I've found is there's this massive gap that's not, there's very little support for getting from this point of realization that you're entering palliative care to those final stages of life. So I'm really interested for seeing how the Paehiranga study and outcomes of it help fill that space for Māori.
Kia ora. So the objective of the Paehiranga study was to interview whānau.
Mm-hmm.
That might be somebody that had a life-limiting illness themselves, their whānau carers, rongoa practitioners, so those are the people that work with the natural healing modalities, and that could be rongoa rākau, the plant medicines, or it could be mirimiri, massage, or it also could be the matikititanga, so the ability to see into the other realm and connect that person that's ill or dying with the tupuna or the ancestors on the other side. And also I interviewed Māori health professionals. We interviewed, I think, 61 whānau health professionals, rongoa practitioners and tohunga.
Wonderful.
Are the spiritual experts. And it might have been a chaplain, or it might have been somebody within their community that was the go-to person for all spiritual manner of healthcare. And the project dealt with individual interviews, and we created 22 digital stories, 16 from this project, and I think 7 or 8 from the original pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And they are all sitting on our website, Te Ipu Aro Nui, and I'll tell you about that later.
Yeah.
So the key findings, I think, and we're still analysing data and we're still publishing, but the key findings are that whānau themselves are the rongoa. So when we look at natural healing, families are the natural healing.
Yeah.
And if we look at each person having their own wairua, their own unique, of course, identity and character in the tangata or in that human realm, but their wairua bringing that beautiful light and love with them. And when they all amass together, all the whānau come together to provide that care, they take on different roles. They create their own systems of care, and bring in this holistic support to that ill and dying person. We interviewed, as I said, kaumātua. So primarily these were people that range from 50 right up to, their 80s. And different iwi will determine what age you are as a kaumātua. But in my iwi, we say, well, when you're 50, you can be a kaumātua because a lot of the old ones have gone. So in terms of the most critical things that help people, wairuatanga, the spiritual force or the spiritual element, the domain, that is at the top of the list. When people talk about the spiritual practices, what is the number one thing they talk about? It's karakia.
Yes.
Typically karakia are prayers or chants, things like that. And these can be in Māori or they could be in English. The point is that it's the connection, the sincere connection that individuals and whānau have with the divine. And for some whānau, the divine relate back to the atua, or the gods and goddesses of our tribal whakapapa, our history, our genealogical histories. And for other Māori, they can be more Christian, which is to divinity. So we'd be talking about God, Jesus, Mother Mary. And for some whānau, those two have a happy way of converging.
Yeah.
So they have some way of managing both together.
Yeah.
The prayers are the number one. And so we know that a lot of kaumātua use rongoa. So talk about externally, they might have a pani or some sort of salve that could be used on the skin to support things that were going on with the skin.
Yeah.
And they may have a nice hot cup of tea made from the different herbs or the different plants from the garden or the forest. So we know that things like kawa are really well received.
Yeah.
And then there are things like the massage, all sorts of wonderful things that healers can bring to, I guess, relieve stress, support the flow of the energy in the body, and to clear and cleanse the energy around the body that's no longer wanted or that needs to be released. So it certainly isn't just a physical thing that's going on, it's the holistic approach. But what whānau have told us is that above all, it is the karakia. So even a spiritual tohunga who is an expert of rongoa and has karakia before they leave home to go to the bush to get the plants, and then they stop the car and they'll have karakia before they get out of their car. They have karakia as they approach the bush. They have karakia as they touch the plants and pluck them, and karakia to work with them. Even someone that had that level of knowledge said to me, Tess, I actually don't need to go to the ngahere. I can pray and I can ask for the essence of that particular plant to come into karakia.
Yeah.
Now that's phenomenal, isn't it? This understanding of karakia and its purpose and its benefits, I think we just can't go past that.
No, absolutely.
And then, of course, on top of that, you've got the whānau who, as I said, are the rongoa. They bring their love. And, of course, that loving frequency, that healing vibration that they bring in all their care is what supports and uplifts that kaumātua that's dying. Being able to go with, I often talk about the blade of grass in the wind, and the blade of grass yields to the force of the wind or the pressure of the wind. It doesn't try and fight it. And when whānau have all the information they need and all the resources they need, they have the financial aspect that they need, they have a home to provide care, they have the ability to reconnect that kaumātua back to ancestral homes if they live away from there. They can take them home to visit their awa, their rivers, their maunga, their mountains. They can take them back to the marae, to their ancestral meeting place. And of course, many of us want to go back to our urupa, our graveyards, and we talk to those that are there in the graveyards. And we have a look and see where we're going to go in the ground.
Yeah.
All of these things are really important for the preparation of that older person when they're dying.
For people who maybe have, through circumstance, lost the pathway to that knowledge, and that, I guess, that comfort and lack of limiting behaviors around actually working with karakia and working with rongoa and things. How is the study helping them? Have you created, or are you enabling more pathways for Māori who maybe have got disconnected from that knowledge to be able to find it again?
I think on our website, which we released this year, and I'll just say it slowly, it's www.teipuaronui.co.nz, Te Ipu Aronui. And Te Ipu Aronui is a vessel. It's a vessel that can hold creative life force type things, and when that's full, it overflows. So that's the concept of it. When Māori come to our site, they will see a lot of information about our Māori values, the digital stories that families have created. There's also a part actually on our identity, on our Māori diversity. And what we try and encourage people to do is to start putting it out there that I want to reconnect with my whakapapa, my genealogy. I want to reconnect with my culture. And so we give them some suggestions for how they might, first of all, locate their iwi if they have lost those roots.
Right.
You know, we don't tell people exactly what to do, but we give them ideas for how to explore their way back into that. Now, there are a whole generation of Māori in this country that were adopted to non-Māori whānau, and they were not told that they were Māori. And so there are Māori people in this country that do not actually know their iwi, and that's a fact. And so I'm a great believer in whānau of creation as well. So we have birth families, and sometimes they're not always that healthy for us.
Yeah.
So actually we need that, I guess, encouragement and permission sometimes to create our own whānau. You know, those whānau that are resonating more where we're resonating, and they can match us in terms of our own well-being. And so, you know, we encourage people to join a te reo class, you know, make yourself known to a local Māori whānau or a community. Go down to the marae and make yourself useful in the kitchen, you know.
Yeah.
Build those relationships, build those connections, and be humble. Be humble in joining and giving and loving. And that's when we'll start to receive, I think. Try and help people to connect back that way. But also from a very kind of rudimentary level, people can come and have a look, and they can learn a bit about our culture, they can learn about our customs, they can read about rongoa. It's not a clinical site, it's not an academic site, it's just spoken in very easy language, and it's very participant quote heavy.
Yeah.
So, you know, we might say something about a certain subject area, like some of the challenges that whānau might cope with, but we let the participants we've interviewed speak about it.
I have had a really good look around that website, and I have to say it made my heart sing seeing it and seeing the information that you've got there, and how it's presented and how it opens doorways for people. And what I loved about it was the way it kept coming back to community and really acknowledging whānau manaaki as and the importance of the role of family caregivers in caring for loved ones.
Yes.
The other thing I loved and I found interesting was in the rongo section was all the things that give permission to be themselves in the caring context, humour,
Yes.
storytelling, that sort of coming together. And I thought that was really beautiful, actually, because I think so often when we get into that care context, people get really scared, don't they? And they don't know what to do, and they feel sometimes that they're never doing enough. And what I loved about the website was actually saying, hey, even just sitting at the bedside telling a story, you can still laugh. You know,
Yes.
these things are all important. And then wrapping into that the whole connection with plants and landscape and spirit was really lovely. So I'm interested to know then, how are you finding that kind of dovetailing in then with the non-home care settings? What has happened for you in the discussions with health professionals about the inclusion of this within care for people?
Yes, I'll talk about that just in a second. I just wanted to reflect on the website and just to thank you for your acknowledgement. Of course, we've had a very big team on the project, and also I want to just really respect the work of Sophia Minson, the artist, because people come into the site, I believe that they will experience that healing vibration that has been largely permitted also by the artwork that's been donated by Sophia Minson and her husband and their business. And you can see the uplifting feeling that you get looking at those images. And also I've worked with Sasha Mayer from Auckland, who treated the site, who developed the graphics for it and really drew on those beautiful tonings, colour tonings. What I'm really hoping is that they will feel through the work of Sophia Minson, who's from Ngāti Porou, who will feel the energy, and they will read the words, but they will resonate with that spiritual frequency in that site. And the health professionals have a section for themselves on that website. And what we're trying to do is to reach out to them and say, come and have a look here. And in the privacy of your own home or your own office, come and have a look and see what being an extended member of the whānau Manaaki team would look like. This is something that whānau tell us when they're providing end-of-life care, and we know it can be a very challenging and demanding job to do, particularly if someone is dying at home. It's over a long period of time. Maybe there are complex issues. The level of care is great. And one of the things that whānau tell us is that when they make a connection, a really good connection with a caregiver, a health professional, they become an extended member of their whānau.
Yeah.
The language they would use, they would say to us, oh, we just see them as part of our whānau now. You know, when I hear words like that, I just think this is a win-win situation. No one's losing here. Everyone is winning from this. And what is the critical ingredient? It's that health professional being able to form a relationship with the whānau and be present with them.
Yeah.
Come in as an authority, I know everything and I've got what it takes to kind of fix this up or fix this problem up or whatever. But they come in alongside and they become a useful member of that whānau. So they have their role. Everyone has a role, and they slip in and they do what they're doing. And so the response from health professionals so far to the site has been wonderful.
Yes.
Get emails from doctors, also funeral directors, believe it.
No, I would believe that, having worked for one for a few months.
Yeah.
That's they would be fine. They need this information, I think.
Yes, they're just very grateful because it's very simple. Not a bunch of researchers sitting at a university making this stuff up. All we've done is we've tried to package it in a very simple way and provide that entry point for all the different whānau voices to come through, the rongoa practitioners, the tohunga practitioners, and the Māori health professionals. Their voices are coming through. And so, they can have a relationship with the material. But we're getting good advice as well. So health professionals are saying, oh, we could use this site to teach our medical students.
Right.
Marvellous. Or we could use this, can I use this to do some training with our hospice staff?
Right.
So there's something about it that I think we're hoping it's drawing people in, and when they get there, they feel safe and they feel as though this is for them and they can be a valued member of that whānau if they're invited to be.
So what, for you and for the team and the kaumātua who've been working on this project, what is that big vision for you? What are your real deep aroa infused dreams for this work?
Yeah, I guess that's very interesting. Well, let's just reflect for a moment. Last year we had COVID come to New Zealand, and in level 4 my mokopuna was born and died, and it was such a traumatizing experience for our whānau, and not just for those of us in the bubble, and there were only 5 of us in the bubble, but the hundreds of whānau that were on the sidelines watching through Zoom or hearing through the telephone line what was happening.
So sorry.
It was just awful. And because of that, and in consultation with the kaumātua and Professor Merrin and our team, we thought, actually, the Paeherenga study hasn't finished. Study of traditional end-of-life care customs. But how do we adapt to a COVID situation or a pandemic environment?
Yeah.
So we very quickly put a grant together and won $1 million to do a second project, a connected project on looking at whānau experiences of caregiving and death during lockdown. So we've nearly completed 60 interviews, 25 with whānau, funeral directors and Māori health professionals, and we've gathered a lot of information. So next year around New Zealand, we'll be having in 8 different sites photographic exhibitions. So when we interview whānau, a photographer comes in after the interview, and then we, in the exhibition, will show the whānau photograph, and we'll have a statement next to it. The actual exhibition will be called Rapua Te Marama, Whānau Reflections on Life and Death During COVID Lockdown.
Gosh.
And Matua Rawari, before he passed, he gave the name Rapua Te Marama, and really this means gathering the light. And so we're finding out what all the challenges were to do with life and death during COVID lockdown, but we're finding out actually how did whānau adapt? How did they cope? How did they survive? And how have they progressed over the last 12 months? What helped them? So we're finding out awesome information, and that too will be digitised and put on our website.
Wonderful.
So the exhibition will be completed next August. So I guess that's, when we talk about the vision, I guess the vision is to provide encouragement, inspiration, motivation, and a community where people can come and have a look and take something and put it in their kite. So on the site, you'll notice we use the pūrākau around tāne, travelling through to the heavens to these 3 baskets of knowledge, and acknowledge on our website that all whānau have a kite with information in it, and some might be groaning, they're so full of knowledge and talents and skills. Like some whānau, they have their own rongoa healers, they have their own tohunga, they have nurses, they have people that have been trained in healthcare, and I mean they're just incredible. They can do the whole thing. Then there are other whānau who may have held on to manaakitanga, so that sense of loving reciprocal care, very good hosting skills. So they've got that in their basket, but they may no longer have tohunga, no longer have rongoa practitioners. And so, I guess what we're hoping is that people will come along with their kite, look at Te Ipu Aronui and say, hey, I can pop this into my kite, this can help us. But perhaps the vision for me is that every whānau is able to draw together in their kite the information that they need to get alongside that kaumātua when they're ready for them to get alongside them, because our kaumātua are very independent.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they just don't want whānau moving in, taking over, making decisions. So it has to be some mutual process where I guess the vision is that whānau can make their own decisions. They've got all the information they need. They have all the resources they need, or if they don't have them, they know where they can get them. And there will be health professionals, health providers, and systems waiting to assist them, because we know that whānau provide the bulk of end-of-life care.
Yeah.
And we know that we can do it, and we can do it exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Sometimes we may need a bit of information and a bit of support.
I get really inspired by these conversations that show also this kind of groundswell that's happening everywhere, really, internationally as well as here in New Zealand, for trying to really blend the medical and the non-medical care for people at the end of life. And so I really applaud everyone that's involved in the work that you've been doing and the work that you yourself are doing. Thank you so much. And I do really hope also that we'll be able to maybe talk again and go into some of the specific areas a little more to help to be another part of shining that light on the gifts that this approach gives people.
Kia ora. Thank you, Georgina.
Kia ora.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk today.
It's a pleasure to have you here in the Soul Garden.
Thank you.
Such a big topic, such valuable work. It's been a real joy having Tess with me here today. I really encourage you to take a look at the website that Tess spoke about in this interview, teipuaranui.co.nz. It has a huge amount of really valuable and easily accessible information. And I hope that Tess will come back for more discussions as we can dive even deeper into content in later interviews. And if you're looking for training for caring for people at the end of life, I offer the Natural Carer training, which combines nature, compassion, and soul in care for others at the end of life. And you can find that at the Centre for Nature Connection website, centrenatureconnection.org. Thank you so much. See you again soon.